If you guys are looking for a place to get some reliable Ultimate Team coins, be sure to check the link in the description below to cointraders.co and use code LEGACY for 5% off of your purchase. How's it going, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to be going over some All-Star Game players I think would be some good purchases, some All-Star Game cards that could go ahead and make you some coins over the weekend. If you buy them now, hopefully they'll go up later down the road. I also have one guy I think is going to go down, and I'm not really a big fan of it. You might be surprised on who it is you should probably avoid buying as well. And obviously, if you guys have not heard, we're getting points for goal play or any goal player scores, the MVP of the All-Star Game, the 2 goalies, the winner of each skills competition, and all that stuff's going to be heavily considered, especially the MVP of the All-Star Game in San Jose. It's got to make you think some of them San Jose players got a better chance. And then the one thing I really have not seen any sort of explanation on, and maybe I'm just really skeptical and nobody else is it says for any goal a player scores, they're going to get a 1 on their upgrade, a +1 on their ratings boost. But it says any goal. It doesn't say for each goal, but it also doesn't say max of 1+ on your overalls either. It's a really, as far as I've seen a lot of people say it's a +1. Every single goal you get a +1. So that's what we're going to go by today. But do bear that in mind. I don't know. Maybe that's, like I said, that might just be me overthinking it, but I've been thinking about that. But for today's video, we're going to consider the fact that they can score 3 goals and get a +3, which, you know, does sound pretty nice doing it that way. So I can see them doing that as well. And it makes sense that that's the way they do it because why not? That's really all I got. Just sounds good. Looks nice. Speaking of looks nice, you see that primetime Ovechkin? That thing is what looks nice. We're going to save dessert for last. First thing we're going to do is bring up the player I think you guys should avoid buying. And we're going to Edmonton, and we're not going to Leon Draisaitl. And that's the great one himself, Connor McDavid. This era is a great one. I should be careful what I say there. But Connor McDavid, a god among men, the best player in the league. Why wouldn't you want to buy him? He's fantastic. What can possibly go wrong? It's Connor frickin' McDavid. Well, here's what can go wrong. He has 500K right now. He's an 89 overall. And let me go show you real quick what his 93 is going for. I believe it is about 400K, if I ain't mistaken. We'll take a look. 411. It's the only one up. You can argue that's obviously the price is jacked higher than it should be. You could probably go for like 375. Regardless, you got to consider Connor McDavid's an 89. If he was to get a +4, he'd still only be a 400K worth player. So you're going to lose 100K even if you buy him and he gets 4 on his upgrades. And the other thing you really have to consider about McDavid is I think he wins fastest skater. I think we can all, agree on that one. It's actually an interesting, now that you bring it up. That's going to be what? A plus. That's actually really interesting. I can't even look at that stat right there because that's not accurate because he's got 3 lower. It's going to be a +1 on his speed. You'd think agility, acceleration, those would be the other things you'd get, but because they're already 99, that wouldn't happen. Maybe a plus on them balance. I don't even know where they'd go if he won besides that. Balance, endurance, speed. If they plussed his endurance, that would really kill it. But you look at stuff like that, and you have to consider even if he wins that skills competition, that's not going to bump his overall up too much, maybe a +1. And then if you also consider last year's All-Star Game, Connor McDavid laid a goose egg when it comes to goals. Now, granted, it's Connor McDavid. We can already imagine he was just feeding tap-in after tap-in after tap-in it, guys. He had a crazy amount of assists. I know he had 4 just the first game. He had 4 assists alone. But that gets you nothing. You don't get anything for 4 assists. And that's where I'm concerned. Because if you look at it, let's say the goal is a 93. He's going to go for 400K. At that rate, though, he would have to get 3 goals. And then he'd have to win a skills competition or get 4 goals. Which I think was it 3 or 4 goals. Besser, Raquel, they both had a lot of goals last year. It was 3 or 4. So you can see 3 or 4 is probably the max that's going to happen, and it's still very tough to do. Only one player did it. And again, that's a 93 overall. I'm not a fan. I love McDavid, but you have to be careful with the coins. You got to remember he's only going to upgrade 1 time, and he's still going to be a lower overall than his best one. That's going to make his value worth less. But then again, that's just me. It's personally, I'm not a fan of him. If you still feel good about him, then, by all means, go ahead and do it. This is just suggestions from oneself here, so just take it as you will. We're going over to players I like, though. We got to get to dessert. I like a lot of players. But if you could tell by the way I went out there and assessed Connor McDavid, you're going to notice a common theme here. And that is I have a lot of players that are cheaper. I like the cheaper guys because at the end of the day, and I'll bring up Drew Doughty first. That's for some 250K, and he's only 1 up. That's pretty solid. But at the end of the day, the All-Star Game is unpredictable. Like I just said, who had the most goals last year? Brock Besser and Rickard Rakell. I mean, like I said, Connor McDavid was feeding them the puck, but those probably were two of the guys you expected least to get an upgrade last year, and they would have seen a +4 on their upgrade stats, +3, +4. So for that reason, I like looking up these cheaper guys like Drew Doughty because, again, 250K. And one thing about the All-Star game, when it's 3v3, the defensemen get a lot of shots, get a lot of good scoring opportunities. You see a lot of defensemen get goals. Drew Doughty had 1 or 2 goals last year. I can't put my finger on it. Was that 1 or 2? I remember looking up. They don't have a box score, apparently. I was trying to find a history of the box score. I ended up looking up like the goal-by-goal stat line or something instead. But Drew Doughty is nonetheless a good candidate to get, again, on anybody playing with McDavid, you're going to notice I like. But he's on that Pacific line possibly. You never know, he might not play with him. But regardless, a +2 by 2 goals, maybe a skills competition with a 92. And then you bring up his 93, I think was 400K. Does he have another one? He's an 89. He ain't going to go any lower than that. But I'll bring up his 93 real quick just to show you, get a confirmation on his price. 400K, yeah, 400K. So you go ahead and say that. It's like, well, if he gets a 91, maybe he's 300K. Maybe he's 350. Maybe he gets a 92. I like that, though. You know, he's 250 now. It's 150K profit. You can't go wrong there. Then we have good old Steven Stamkos. I like Steven Stamkos. 1, he's only 300K. 2, if we go and look at his player, he has, I believe it was a 91. That is his highest overall right now. If we could get this to load up here real quick. There we go. A 91, which means he needs a +2 to match that. And we know Steven Stamkos has the ability to score some goals. Not to mention Steven Stamkos was, I think he had like a 95 on his shot power, which, I mean, is not fantastic, blow him out of the water. But all the guys that had a better shooting power last season, when he participated in that hardest shot competition, aren't in the All-Star game this year. So if you want to be technical, he's the lead runner right now. But we haven't seen these other guys shoot as well. But that's always something to consider. The thing I really love about Stamkos, he's that big name. People know him, people love him, people want to use him. And he only needs that +2 to be his best card. The important thing here to look at for a lot of these guys is you don't really want to grab a guy that, say Kucherov, for example. I love Kucherov. He could put up like 6 goals. But you don't want to grab a guy who's going to get upgrades that's going to be lower than his highest overall still, because then it makes the card worth less. Because obviously everybody wants that big fish. Now Stamkos' Evo is the only thing I can look at here. That's like 600K, so he's probably cheaper than that. But still, like I said, Stamkos, I love it. 300K, gets a couple goals, maybe a 450K player. Then I have to choose a San Jose player. And honestly, they're all good picks because, like I said, it's in San Jose. And they all have such a better chance of becoming the playoffs or the All-Star Game MVP. Not to mention the Pacific Division has been running things lately in the All-Star Game with this 3v3 competition. But again, you still have to win. You have to win the competition or they're probably not going to give you the MVP. They might. It's hard telling. Brent Burns could put up 6 goals and lose the second game and still get MVP, but I doubt it. But regardless, it's hometown. You have to love the hometown stuff. And Brent Burns, again, possibly playing with McDavid, and he's a shooter. He's probably the most predominant goal-scoring defenseman out there in the All-Star game this year. And you tied it together with, like I said, defensemen get more scoring chances. You play with somebody like McDavid, and he's 250K. How can you go wrong with 250K on an 89 Brent Burns? His highest overall right now, I'll show you that real quick as well. Again, it'd be a +3 for Brent Burns, is 440K. We're talking a 200K profit for a guy that can put up 2 goals and win one skills competition. Very, very likely. And that's the stuff I love. I love seeing the stuff that's low risk, high reward here. And that's, again, Brent Burns. And the biggest steal possibly of them all, and this, again, it's gambling at the end of the day. Let's be honest. Every single one of these guys, they ain't guarantee any of them get a goal. Any of these guys could drop 4 goals. Then again, any of them could drop 0 goals. But I love Sebastian Aho. He's got that Brock Besser, Rickard Rakell feeling to him. Like, he's a great player, but he's getting slept on by a lot of people. And he's got that ability to go out there and drop 3 goals. Especially considering some of the guys he's going to have the ability to be playing with in the All-Star game. At least I haven't heard Crosby isn't bowing out yet, is he? Did I miss that? I know Ovechkin is, but I don't think I heard anything about Crosby. So you consider stuff like that, who he's playing with. 220K is an amazing price for an 89. A lot of 89s are still in the 150, 180 range at All-Star game cards. And it also means you have a high floor, so you wouldn't lose too much if you did buy him. I'm very interested in Sebastian Aho. Like I said, he drops 3 goals. Maybe wins a skills competition and 93 overall. Imagine how much Sebastian Aho goes for at a 93 compared to an 89. I think he's an excellent buy. He's probably my favorite one here if you're looking for a sleeper purchase. Obviously, there's probably safer ways to go if you want to go with, the Stamkoses or the Brent Burns, or even if you want to try the McDavids. I'm not a big fan personally, but I'd like to hear some guys you guys are thinking about for the All-Star game as well. Bear in mind, a lot of the skills competitions are, simply put, crapshoots. Besides something like the hardest shot or the fastest skater, if the guys are predominantly hard shooters, they're going to win the competition, same with the fast guys, but we've seen, Brian Boyle, I think, barely didn't win the most accurate shot last season. So, like, you know, it's one of those things. You can't even look at shot accuracy or something like that, or best passing, everything else. It just takes one little mess up in the skills competition. All of a sudden, you know, he goes from, you know, finishing 30 seconds to 40, and he's out of the chances of winning. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.